Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Hope you've had a great past week. Danny, how are you doing, buddy?
Chilling like a villain, man. You know it. I'm doing
Oh,
great. I am tired. If one more person asks me to schedule an additional thing between now and 9 days from now when school ends,
mm-hmm.
I might spit on them. I might just straight up just like, "Ugh, get out of my life,"
I'd
because it
like you
has
to.
been busy.
I'd like you to schedule a trip to Cincinnati to come
Yeah,
visit
yeah.
me.
Hang on, gotta get one up here. Right on the camera. Let's just sit there the whole time, just like glob. How dare you? We went to orchestra concert last night, and it was fifth, sixth, and seventh graders, which my had my kid in fifth. So the cool thing is they had everybody going, and last year they took I think five or six different elementary schools and had them all on the stage at the same time. So that was I
Hmm.
don't know, 150 kids or something. There's just so many kids and then so many parents and grandparents and family. And it was just overwhelming. So they split it this year we only had three schools, which was very manageable. And then they said, so we're going to do fifth grade first. And then once fifth grade has finished, the students can go home. So any families that want to stay, you're welcome to stay. But if you don't want to stay for the sixth and seventh grades, you can leave. And what that will do is free up seats. And I look back and it's standing room only back there. It's just insane. And the funny thing is there were empty seats. And I noticed something that I'm going to bring up in my men's group because we're looking, we just as a group we're looking for things to do for the community, to kind
Yeah.
of just do things for like if somebody needs their drive shoveled. I mean, it just doesn't matter. Just do things. We're not trying to make money or anything like that. We're just trying to help people, right? And I said, you know what this place needs? It needs ushers. And
Oh,
you know who would make great ushers?
dads.
Dads, right? Because you look at it, because there was like four seats right in front of me, but there were three people on one side and one on the other, and you really couldn't see them unless you walked down there. And I'm like, if we had dads in charge right now of this, I'd be like, Bob, how many seats you got? And he would just hold up three fingers and then wave his hand, and I would send three people down or whatever. It would
Yes.
just be so easy.
Love
So
that idea.
I'm going to ask the orchestra concert directors, because it's a different person from the conductor who actually organizes everything, and just say, I think we should have ushers. Could I volunteer some dads to do that, and just make that a thing that the Stevens Point men's group does, just because get involved,
Yeah.
be there, show, and we don't need shirts or anything. We just we probably need like a some sort of at least know each other by face, but like, yeah, that
You
guy
just get
with
those
with
directional
the mohawk,
flashlights
the
for
guy, right,
the
yeah,
airport.
yeah, yes, yes. So but yeah, just so many things going on. I was talking to one of the other parents, and she stopped me as I'm running one way and she's running the other. She goes, oh, kids wanted to get together and do an event, and I'm like, yeah, cool, let's get them together when we can, but not this week. She goes, oh god, not this week. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. So like just summer then, I don't care. And she's like, okay, and we just ships in the night, and I kept moving.
Yeah.
And you could just see the look in her eye that she was just already, and it's only Monday, or last night was Monday, but it's already just done, just overwhelmed. Just like there's so much planning and so many things going on. And I'm looking at my week, and I'm like, no, I can't, I really, there are things that I'm doing personally that I felt I kind of wanted to cancel.
Yeah.
Like I run a D&D game, run Starfighter, but same difference for those who don't play tabletop RPG on Thursday nights for the dads in our network. And I'm looking at it going, man, I need that time
Mm-hmm.
because Friday is graduation. So Friday at about noon, the grandparents are getting in, and all of us are going to graduation. And so I'm going to have dinner at least prepared for the kids who are staying home because they only gave us 4 tickets to the graduation. You
Of
don't pay,
course they
and I'm like,
did.
what? What do you do? What am I doing with 4 tickets? But it's fine. So that I've got the graduation. It's also the graduation party on Saturday, and then grandma's birthday is on Monday, so we're going to celebrate that on Sunday with her. So the kids want to make her something. We're going to make like banana nut muffins or something, and then the kids are going to make cupcakes for
You're in full on
themselves.
host
You
mode
know,
basically for
it's
the
just yeah,
weekend. Yeah.
and you can't imagine how much cleaning I've got to do.
Hmm.
I mean, I've spent uh at least an hour. It's 8:30 in the morning for me, and I've spent at least an hour just cleaning already,
You should just
and
fly
just
Josh Domash out, man. He's the king of cleaning thing.
it's
I
true.
love you, Josh.
Sanitary man too. It would all be, but he would be revolted and probably say, "Danny, you should just burn it down and start over because
But yeah, no, that
it's
is that
awful.
is a lot of stuff for sure. I know
So much."
I know this past weekend, Saturday, we had a birthday party that my daughter went to for her best friend, and I was talking to her dad, who is the varsity boys basketball coach at our school,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Yeah," and I taught a couple of AP classes with the seniors in them, and he's like, "I got invited to 35 graduation parties," and I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm basically gonna make like a high and by appearance at like all 35. I'm just like,
Wow.
that's a
Sweet.
lot. I mean,
Yeah.
at the same time, too, though, I think back to what it was like when I graduated high school. And I mean, I graduated with, oh gosh, every bit of almost 800 people in my class. I mean, it was
Hmm.
huge. I couldn't even imagine what those teachers went through with trying to get to different parties and stuff.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's, this time of year is always crazy for that. And then, you got other people who have kids graduating college on top of that. And so,
Hmm.
um, it's just a lot for the end of the year. I know my kids tomorrow, their field day. And so I'm actually looking forward to that. That's always a lot of fun. They just basically split the lower school kids K through 5, and
Hmm.
they one half of them are purple and the other half are silver, and they basically just like play games and get points or whatever, and it's all just for bragging rights. There's really nothing else that comes to it. But
Hmm.
it's funny to watch some of the kids that really get into it and how they dress and just what they come up with costume wise. And then there's other kids that are like, I don't care. And I'm just like, yeah, those are the kids that are like, why do I have to be here?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but it's fun. They do have a lot of really fun like games and stuff for them to play, and
Hmm.
I I've enjoyed the past few years just volunteering for it with the other
Yeah.
parents, so it's always a good time.
They have track and field day today and tomorrow at the
Okay,
elementary schools. And the cool thing was that they offered kids to be able to just be helpers rather than participants.
great.
Because,
Yeah,
like, my kid is not athletic, is the best way to put it.
yeah.
He's tried, we've tried. He'll be strong when he grows up. Everything will come around eventually. But so far, he just runs like a sausage and isn't really
It's not
any
in,
better.
yeah,
He's
he's not
just not there
interested
yet.
in it. Yeah.
And it's cool because he said, oh, actually, I'm going to be, because he's on student council and he's one of the cadets, like the bus cadets.
Oh
He said, I'm
yeah.
actually going to go and I'm going to help the younger kids stay in line,
That's
and it was
helpful.
like, oh yeah, right. Can you imagine if you had someone with your first graders and you were a teacher, you got 15 or 20 or 30 first
I
graders, and
get
you're
an
like,
extra I get an extra wrangler to go after the cats.
hmm.
Awesome.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So I really like that they did that too, because it's surprising. From, again, small town Wisconsin, you get some kind of older values and things, and like,
Mhm.
football team is the only thing that matters. And that's still kind of the way it is in some things, but
Sure.
they're reaching out to both other sports, other types of athletics, and then people just aren't going to be athletic.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just either are uninterested or don't have the ability. Like, I'm not a runner. I wouldn't run from a dog at this point. I would just be like, yep, he's gonna catch me. There's no way, right?
Sure.
And it's just not where I've ever been. I enjoy running, or I used to when I was a kid. But I enjoy more like climbing stuff or, even caving. I like physical stuff. Hiking is fun.
Yeah.
Splitting wood is fun, but I don't like throwing a ball.
Well, that's like
I'm
the
just,
5K, that
hmm
gets put on at Home DadCon. Last year
hmm
was the first year for that, and I remember there were quite a few guys who it's like, hey, like I'm not running this for XYZ reason, but I'll come out to the finish line and support and cheer guys on because some guys it's maybe the first time they're doing this event
hmm
in this situation. And I'll tell you, when you get to that last bit and you can actually see the finish line, your brain's like, there's the finish line. Your body's like, oh God, like I can't make it. And then you have all of these friends of yours at the end screaming and hollering, like, come on, you can do it, yeah, like
Yeah.
and cheering you
Yeah.
on, and it just gives you that extra boost you need to like make it, down the
Right.
way and across the finish line. So I totally understand what you're
hmm
talking about with, having people in that position to, just cheer people along. So,
Right. It's
and
so supportive and
yeah,
it's such a
exactly.
valuable role. Support is such a valuable role in
I know,
everything.
I know here in town with like the Flying Pig Marathon, we've got people lined up along the street and cheering people on the whole time. And I've talked to so many people who it was their first time ever doing a marathon. They weren't sure how they were gonna do. And, at certain spots when they were like, I just don't think I could do it anymore, they'd like come up on a group of people who were just like cheering them on, and like some of them would even like get out there and run with them for like a block or two and just give them motivation. And like it
Nice.
was those things that like kept me going, and I'm just like,
hmm
yeah, we all need that in life. Like
Yeah.
that's what we all need in life as well. So I
Mentor in a men's group. That's your cheering section.
there you go, exactly, yeah. And look at that. um
Well,
let me
I
Yeah, go
wanted to
ahead.
say too before we move on from the 5K this year. Of course, we're having another 5K.
Yeah.
It's called Kyle Denny's taking care of it again. Cool, and it's called Dad's Run. Very simple, but they're also having, and I think it's a 1 mile just for people to get involved with it, especially if you want to make a donation and just try it. So there's a 1 mile, and they're calling it the Arch March.
Yeah, I like that.
And I'm like, nice. I don't know who came up with that, but I like that. So because it's for, and I'm not sure if it's still a 5K walk or I thought they moved it to just a mile, but I could be wrong, obviously. But it was really cool that they brought that in because there are people who just, they're not into walking. They're not into running, especially. They're just sedentary or they just, they have a good knee. There's a lot of that
Uh-huh.
going on. There's a lot of
Yeah.
that going on,
Yeah.
right? So all those years earlier when we didn't stretch and didn't take care of ourselves, and then we're like, oh yeah, that don't work anymore.
Exactly. Well, and I mean too, sometimes the body can't handle that pounding to the ground type of thing when you're running. So,
Mhm. Especially in
even
military. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure you saw it. I don't know how far you got through with basic and what have you, but just basic training, the amount of running you do,
Oh
which
yeah.
is, I mean, you need to, yes, but your knees,
Yeah.
especially if you're career military, oh man, I mean, that's a sacrifice in and of itself.
It's a lot of running. I know it well
Never come back.
in boot camp for me, I mean, I was up in Great Lakes up in northern Illinois. And so
hmm
I was there when it was cold. So, running in the snow, that
Mm,
don't feel good. Like
mm-mm.
running in the
No.
cold, mm-mm. Especially when you're running, and it's not like you're running in tennis shoes because they don't got no
Right.
traction. So there you are in your boots, and you're running with those. So it's like heels, and it's just not, you got a thicker heel on the back of your boot and everything else, and
hmm
it's uncomfortable. And
Yeah,
so,
running in boots is
yeah,
tough.
but at the same time too, I mean, that's the stuff you're going to do out in the field too, depending on the situation you're in. So just getting you ready for that. So yeah,
hmm
just
Yeah. Again, it's
totally,
useful,
yeah, yeah.
but it's damaging.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, speaking of damaging, great transition there. Um, so this past weekend also was my wife and I's 17th wedding anniversary.
hmm
Kind of a low key year, nothing really crazy going on or whatever. And we're actually more gonna celebrate in June when the kids get shipped to grandma and grandpa's for a week. So we'll get some time to just the two of us to be together, even though
Nap.
she's got grand jury duty that whole week. but but at least like we get the evenings to each other. So
hmm
um but no, so we have Kings Island just up the road. We bought gold passes this year, and we're really excited about that. And the kids seemed really excited about it too. I don't think that we did a very good job investigating the reasons for why the kids were so excited about it. I had a pretty good idea about Hezekiah, like he was all gun
Hmm.
ho about roller coasters, and we did ride some roller coasters last year before the park closed. But Ruby, we went up on Sunday, and Ruby wasn't too sure what she wanted to do. She's 8 years old, and she sees everything that everybody's doing on the roller coasters, and I guess like my excitement for being there and just being with the family and enjoying that day at the park, like kind of blinded me to what she was going through. Um, because she didn't really want to ride any of the roller coasters. And that was a little frustrating because it was
Right.
like you kind of spent all this money to.
That's why we're here.
Exactly, exactly. And granted, there is a water park, but it doesn't open up until Memorial Day weekend, so that's coming up. But um so it was like, all right, it's just the roller coasters and rides that are here that we're doing today. And she was being affected by like everybody screaming on the rides and things, and she was taking a lot of that as just straight terror and not as like enjoyment
Hmm.
and things
Yeah.
like that. And so, like Corey had some conversations with her, trying to like just calm her and talk things through with her. And we did eventually like get her to the point where she agreed to go on one of the roller coasters, um, which was like a smaller one, and she seemed to enjoy it. Like she said she had fun on it. But she was kind of done after that. Like that was it. Like we were like, and so I'm in this place of just like I said, frustration. And I had a moment with her where I kind of just lost my shit. Like there's really no other way to put it. I just was very blunt with her. And it was not encouraging or loving or anything like that. And also too, like after the fact, realizing like some of that wasn't even like me. And what I mean by that is, for years I've always talked about how, yeah, like I went to Kings Island with my family, for family
Yeah.
vacations, and I was scared of heights. But um, I think it was like maybe like the first time we went there, I was in a place where I was like, I don't want to ride any of the roller coasters. And so I remember telling people this conversation that my dad and I had, where he just basically said, if you're not going to ride the roller coasters, you're not going to be coming on the family vacations anymore to the amusement parks. And,
Wow.
different way of communication back then
Yeah,
in some ways.
definitely.
Um, and my dad definitely is not one, he's not like a super hard person, but he's a very like blunt person with things. And so I think for me, like looking back on the situation, I think I suppressed a lot of what actually took place because I don't remember what my full emotions were or how I really reacted to it, other than I tell people like next thing I know, like, I'm getting on the world's first stand up roller coaster with a loop, the King Cobra, which
Willingly,
will, yeah,
willingly.
I
I
don't
mean,
know that I don't know. I don't,
whew.
like I said, I don't remember anything other than getting on the roller coaster. So whatever happened between
Mm.
me saying I do it to me actually like getting on the ride and everything, like I don't have any memory of that.
Oh man.
But I feel like I had this sort of PTSD moment where I basically afterwards like realized like, oh my gosh, like the way that I was reacting was basically what I feel like is what my dad would have, how he reacted with me.
Yeah.
And so I had this outburst. Corey was just kind of like, I'm done. We're not dealing with it. This is not why we're here. And we have
Hmm.
passes. So we're just gonna basically push pause and eject and
Yeah.
get out of this situation. And so like they're walking ahead. Corey's angry at me because I'm not controlling what's going on with me, and the kids are just following along, and I'm kind of walking in the back, sort of processing everything. And through processing it all, um, like I'm just like, where did this come from? Like I just like I was just kind of beside myself on I can't believe
Right.
I went down that path. That's not how I talk to my kids. Um, and so once I had processed it all and kind of realized like, oh, like I basically kind of like had this almost outer body experience type of deal. I know that's not what you really want to call it, but just
No, I get
wanted,
what you mean. Yeah.
you know what I mean though? Like, yeah. I went to the kids at nighttime, like right when we were getting ready to go to bed, and I sat down with each of them and I basically explained what went on and apologized to them and asked just for forgiveness for just my attitude. And my son, like he kind of understood. He was just more like in a place of just confusion as to why we were leaving, type of deal. When I went to Ruby, she was like, "You did you have like a flashback?" um, like
Yeah.
those were her words.
Yeah.
She's like, you had a flashback. She's like, I've had those before, and I'm like, you're 8 years old. What kind of flashbacks you
Right.
had?
Where are you flashing back to?
I'm like,
Like last Wednesday?
yeah, right, exactly. But
But yeah,
but
but
no,
she
like,
could.
yeah. So yeah, she's like, oh, she's like, I'm sorry that you dealt with it. I'm like, no, you don't need to apologize for anything. I was like, I'm apologizing for the way I treated you because like that was inappropriate and not loving at all. And it was just like a really good like learning moment. But at the same time, like after all of the processing of it and then went down and talked to Corey about it too, I was like, oh, I was like, you know, my childhood was not all peaches and cream as, for things. And
Yeah.
I talk about, for the most part, like, my childhood wasn't anything crazy. Like she's dealt with a lot more than me, but at the same time too, I'm just like, okay, like I obviously suppressed some things. Like this was not something that I had,
Right.
and it was a little bit mind blowing actually, and very like it just took all of the energy out of me for the rest of the day.
Hmm.
So, but I think as parents, sometimes we just come into these situations. It's like we talk about our kids being mirror images of us in many
Right.
ways. And then, but at the same time too, it's like, we have this DNA from our parents, and sometimes the experiences that you have with with your parents and things like that kind of trickle in on that as well. And
Hmm.
so it was a lot. Like I feel like I still am processing some of it. It's just and coming to grips with it, honestly. I think
Hmm.
that's probably the biggest thing.
And coming to grips with it too, with your child, telling her this isn't how I act. I didn't mean to do this, and apologizing and handling that in that way is the difference, I think, between what you did and what your dad did. Because we all get frustrated. We all reach a point, and I mean, even on a daily basis, sometimes it's just we're in, especially in this job, in a very frustrating place because they the lack of communication or lack of understanding of psychology or whatever it might be, where our kids are just doing things. I'm like, what are you doing? There's a
Yeah.
hotel.com, I think, commercial that it's a family walking down a hall and they're all just wrecked. And one of the they're just going to each person, the dad, the mom, and the sister, and then the brother, and it goes, this one left his shoes on the plane, his shoes, right? And it's just, I'm like, right? How does this happen? How do you leave your shoes on a plane? And
Yeah.
now we're in a strange city. We're on vacation. I got to go find you shoes. Maybe they'll fit. And it's just mind boggling, right? And it's moments like that that just push you and push you and push you. And because this job is so relentless, eventually you break. Eventually you pop. And it comes down to something that I read a couple of weeks ago. It's and I don't remember who wrote it, unfortunately, but the difference is, what we're taught versus what we learn. Because like in a emergency situation or stressful situation, the first response that we have, especially with parenting, is what we were taught. What our parents showed us is the way to do it. And then generally our second reaction is what we've learned.
Yeah.
I use this example because for me, my first response for the longest time, and it isn't now, was to hit my kids.
Hmm.
whether, pop them on the diaper just lightly, if that's what you want to call it. And, my stepdad just punched me, and hit me with stuff. And it was a natural learned response. This is what my parents taught me, is how you discipline a child, how you keep a child in line. And absolutely it's going to work, because if some person 5 times your height, weight, and strength came up to you and slapped you in the face every time you said the word Christmas, you'd stop saying the word Christmas, not because you've been disciplined well or you've been taught, but because they'll beat the crap out of you, right?
Yeah.
And so what we are taught by our parents, that immediate reaction, my reaction a lot of times has been rage. Rage has been just a huge problem with me throughout my life. And I think I've gotten it pretty good. I think I'm pretty good now, but I'm not, I'm not gonna take my foot off the gas for getting improved on that one. Again, versus what I've taught myself. I mean, what I've learned.
Yeah.
My parents taught me something to react in an angry or violent way, but I've learned, no, that's not where I want to be. And the other part of it, which I've learned and I know you've learned, is that apology, is that
Yes.
coming back to it and saying, that's not how I want to be. And I apologize. I overreacted. I should not have reacted that way. It wasn't something that you should ever even experience, and it wasn't proper. Because the other thing that does, that our parents didn't really teach us, is it develops healthy boundaries in a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if Marnie comes in, like if she could come in right now and start screaming at me, and I wouldn't have a problem, because that's how I grew up. It's what we did. We all yelled. It's just, you just yell. It's just what you do. And Marnie would not do that because that's not how she grew up. Right. But looking at it now, I consider that fine is part of a healthy relationship, psychologically, subconsciously. I don't think that's true. And I keep my kids, hopefully, from developing relationships like that. But for me, that's, it's not any issue, right? Because I
Yeah.
never developed those healthy boundaries. No one ever told me you shouldn't be yelled at, you shouldn't be hit, you shouldn't be whatever, abused in a lot of ways. And learning to teach my kids the difference between what I was taught, right,
Yeah.
is huge. And I think too, because I know I feel like garbage when I yell. Afterwards, I just feel terrible. I'm just like, this is not who I am. I got to fix that, and I got to make that up to that, up to my kid or whatever. And I take care of it immediately. It's something you don't let fester. But I know a lot of people will sit on that and feel it for a long time. But it's not okay that you did it, of course. But it's so good that you went and fixed it and said you were sorry, and you said you admitted you were wrong, and this isn't how you want to be, and that you're not that person. And
Yeah.
that's I think 1,000 times better than what our parents knew to do. Because
Hmm.
I feel like, and I don't know your dad, I've never met him, but from what you've talked about about your parents, I believe that if your dad recognized what that would do to you, that he would have either done it differently, or if it was a response like, he just did it because that's what he was taught to do. You get frustrated, you yell at the kid or whatever, tell him, put parameters, you're never coming with us again, set those ultimatums. But if he'd come to you later and said, that's not who I am, that's not who I want to be, that's not the relationship I want or whatever, and apologize, it would have changed your response for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
up to the point with your own kids. So I love that story, not because obviously that's not something you want to be, but I love that you have that, Brock. And I love that you shared that both with me and with our audience,
Yeah.
because again, it's another moment where we recognize, yeah, I'm imperfect, I mess up, I make mistakes, but then I apologize and I do better. And
Mm.
that's a sign of healthy boundaries in a relationship, which we want our children then to learn. No, you need to have healthy boundaries in your relationship.
Yeah.
So you don't get yelled at.
Well, and I think as dads too, like, sometimes we just, like I said, like it was like a kind of a suppressed memory type of situation. But I think that a lot of dads just have gone through things when they were kids where, they didn't get to process them. I mean, we've talked about that
Mm-mm.
many times, like, just the fact of having a professional to talk to, or, going to Dad's Got This and just processing through. Because I was like trying to find a time. I was like, oh, like, I was like, I could get on Dad's Got to Talk and
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation about that. But I was just like, but I couldn't carve out the time for it. I was like, oh, well, I was like, we'll talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but it's things like that, how you process through it and what you're going to do next that kind of dictate the flow of the future on it. And I think that we hear a lot from dads at home dad con talking about
Yeah.
when it comes to like finishing up like a breakout session or even a main session of something, like there are just things that just get triggered and you're like, oh, I got to talk to somebody about this because but it's for the betterment of yourself and for your family that you actually take the time to
Hmm.
have that conversation.
Right.
So that's kind of the where I was with just the fact that I'm further along in things too with having a wife who at one time was a a licensed counselor, being able to process through some of those things is a little bit easier. But at the same time, too, just you know, the amount of times I've gone to Home Dad Con and talked with people and had other people like see me or me seeing other guys who you can tell like they're processing, they're battling through something, and just
Hmm.
being able to be like, hey,
Right.
like, do you need to talk? Or, did something hit you? Like what,
Yeah.
that kind of deal and
Or
making
just
that an
like,
open
you good?
space. Yes,
I
that
mean,
too.
just a simple, it doesn't have to be, please tell me about all your emotions.
Okay.
We don't have to do that. I will be happy to have all those if you want to talk to about, it, of course.
Sure, sure.
But a lot of men have never been taught how to process it or even talk about it. So just to be able to look at someone and say, "You okay? You good?" and just show them that you are concerned and that you will listen, because that's another thing that men generally don't have, is someone that will actually, especially with their partner, that will listen to them or allow them to cry
Yeah.
and not berate them for it. I've heard of so many men that are like, "Oh yeah, my girlfriend and I, we were talking about it, and I started talking about, my dad died, and I started crying about it, and it was, 6 months later, and she was just like, look, you need to stop. You need to get over this. Stop crying, and that's not the response you need when you have, especially with grief. Oh man,
Yeah.
uh, and
That's
just
somebody
having
that's somebody that has not actually had to deal with grief
right.
or doesn't hasn't dealt with it in a healthy fashion if that's
Mhm.
the case. So, yeah.
Or was taught that men aren't supposed to do that.
Or that.
Men,
Yeah.
men are not allowed to cry, not allowed to be weak, not allowed to be vulnerable more than weak.
Yeah.
Um,
I
that's just another thing that we're trying to change.
right, exactly. Well, this weekend too, so after we went and took Ruby to her party, and then we went and picked her up. We actually drove to Indianapolis for another friend's birthday party. Friend of ours that he spent 7 weeks here for a PTSD program,
Hmm.
and he like it was quite interesting seeing him. So he came from a very toxic, abusive family, just been through a lot, and then joined the army, and it really just kind of
Another
just
toxic, abusive family. I'm just gonna say
yeah,
it.
yeah, no, you're not wrong. It's just like throwing kerosene on a already lit fire, and
Yep, it
so
is difficult.
uh he when he came back he just had all this anger and things that he was trying to work through, and unfortunately it was a lot of verbal like abuse in a way, like towards his family and especially his wife. And at the same time too, I mean, he's pastor in a church and he's trying to like work through all these things, but at the same time he hadn't really taken any time for himself to deal with it. And
Hmm.
once he tested that, he was basically 100% disabled for PTSD, he was like, all right, I got to do something about this, and then joined that program. Well, when we went and seen him on Saturday, he was a different guy. Like it was amazing to like see him interacting with his family and with his friends. He had a different demeanor to him. And I mean,
Yes.
even when he was here with us, like on Sundays and stuff, like you could definitely see things, but being able to see him back home for a few weeks and getting into a different routine, he's now at a place where um like he's got better communication with his family. They're
Yes.
on a better page. And then on top of it too, so he has a service dog, right?
Hmm.
And typically service dogs are like always on duty, like all the time. But he actually was deemed in remission for his PTSD. So when he's at home, not only does he relax, but also his dog gets to relax, and they take the vest off of her, and she's a family dog. She's a family dog, family
Yay.
pet.
Oh.
And so it was really wild to walk in the house and not and see her without her vest on, and I was really confused because I was just like, "Can I pet this dog? Like, what's going on?" And my friend's like, "Yeah, like she's not on duty," like, and explain the whole situation. I'm like, "That's so awesome," and she seems so happy and just excited to be around everybody. But then, of course, when he goes out in public, puts the vest on, gets her all
Hmm.
situated because, it's those sort of public situations that are one of the things that he's still working through.
Oh yeah.
So, but it was just, a program like that, which is super intense. I mean, 7 weeks away from your family, that's a
Hmm.
lot. Um,
Yes.
and that's the extreme of it for a lot of folks who were former military is just all the different issues they went with. He was a chaplain's assistant, so he was the bodyguard to like the chaplain, so he was going into some pretty hairy
Yeah.
situations and seeing some pretty gruesome things, and just
Hmm.
you don't get a lot of time to decompress from that because you're
No.
one place to the next, so that's what
Well,
it was.
and what hits you, what your limit is so very different
Yeah.
for each person. I mean, I know people that have been just in a car accident, and it takes them 8 months before they're able to get back and drive a car again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it was just, you didn't even, nobody died. It wasn't anything awful. It was just, someone hit you out of the blue. And it's how your response takes over everything that you are for that's what PTSD is,
Yeah.
whether it's you're stuck back in that place. So yeah, I can't imagine what I would have been like had I gone in the military or if I'd become a police officer. I honestly at the time was very upset that I wasn't able to be a police officer and wasn't able to go in the army, different reasons. And in hindsight, I honestly think that if there is a higher power, they kept me from getting my poop kicked in. I mean, I don't think I would have survived. And I'm not necessarily a weak person, but I already had so much stuff that I needed to deal with that I wasn't even aware of, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And understanding, getting to that point, especially with a good diagnosis, knowing what you're dealing with, your buddy is strong enough to handle these things.
Yeah.
He just has to understand what it is, how it hit him, and see the steps he needs to take to move forward. He can do it. He's
Yeah.
he's plenty strong,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's just, oh wait, this has never happened. I have no experience and no understand. My brain just went, nope, nope, we're not
Yeah.
handling that, right?
Well, and
And being
two,
able to learn it, that's fantastic. Very
yeah.
proud of your friend
Thanks. Yeah,
for what
he's
it's worth.
he's no, it's all good. I appreciate you saying that. He also too is him and the church that he's a part of, it's like a smaller kind of, not a house church, but something similar to that.
Hmm.
Um Basically like they told him like, "Hey, we're just going to take a sabbatical," cuz their church actually meets on Tuesday nights. So like basically some people have like a Sunday church that they go to, and like Tuesdays is kind of like an equipping type of deal, like they're learning things
Hmm.
from a different standpoint. So
Yeah,
they're like,
nice.
"Hey, we're gonna take 6 months off to and then reevaluate and see where we want to go with this." And that
Hmm.
way he can just concentrate on his family and his, process of things that he needs to do. And his oldest is graduating as well. So they're in that stage of life,
Nice.
and just trying to get that all figured out. And their second oldest is going to be a senior. So it's like one leaving, another one getting ready to. And so
Hmm.
they're kind of at that stage with things. They have 6 kids, by the way, so it's
Hmm.
you know it's a busy life.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah. So, but no, it's just it's been a lot of different things, seeing these different processes of what's going on, and I attribute all of that honestly back to, like I said, like when I started going to Home Dad Con, like I didn't know what I was going to exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I don't mean that to sound like, hey, like here's my promotion pitch for going to Home Dad Con, but it's the breakout sessions and the main sessions of the different presenters that
Right.
I've been able to take small pieces from their talks, like not the whole thing because it's a lot,
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
everything fits into your box. Like it just,
Hmm.
and so having the ability to take those things and then initiate them in my life as a parent makes having the interactions with my kids, with other parents, with even like professionals like at school and stuff like that, so much more I guess I don't want to say easy, but it's one of those deals where it's like you have a moment to just be like, all right, like I remember XYZ thing being said, and here are some steps that I can take, like, just kind of processing that in my head
Uh-huh.
and then walk through those. And then to be able to look at it on the other side and be like, like that worked. Or, oh, I missed a step. Like, okay, like,
Hmm.
I mean, because you're not going to get it right every time. But just the fact that that information is there was available, and now it's still available, which I love even better because, and I will plug this, like, if you're a member, you do have access to all that, all
Hmm.
those different presentations on YouTube, our YouTube channel. But still, that is so empowering for me, and I look back and it's like, man, like 6 7 years now, it's a lot of things, but I feel like I'm a better dad for it,
Hmm.
honestly. And even if I wasn't a stay-at-home dad and I had seen that, I'd have probably still reached out and went to it just
Hmm.
because like it's camaraderie and it's
Yes.
education of things that you're not going to get anywhere else. There's nobody,
Right.
nothing is out there like what goes on at Home Dad Con, and it sounds like such a novelty type situation in what it is, but it's not, because it's what honestly I feel like is like a missing puzzle piece to parenthood, and
Hmm.
and going and hearing these presenters for a weekend.
Hmm. Absolutely. And we have our pillars for the organization is FACES, family advocacy, community education support. And the community, the
Yes.
education, and the support are all 100% at Home Dad Con.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get them in other places and it builds up from there, but that first time you go, especially, and I think everybody that listens to the show know all dads, at least if not all parents, should go to Home Dad Con, period, because there's so much you pick up. But those things that really strengthen who you are as a father. And I've never met a dad who didn't want to be a better dad. No matter how great I thought they were or how crap I thought they were, they still wanted to be better, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And it's an understanding of how do I improve what I do. Well, I can read books, I guess. Other dads, maybe I could find somebody to talk to. And I need somebody to kind of to listen and understand, and then I can ask questions to. Yeah, that's our community. That's Home Dad Con. Community, education, support, absolutely, for the fathers that we know.
Yeah. No, definitely. So that's been my week
Hmm.
with things. But like you were saying, things are coming to a close for summer, or for school year, for the
For
summer to
school.
start. So,
Yep.
uh, I think a lot of the dads are in that place too, where they're just getting ready for that to take place. I wanted to point out that with that, like, still looking for dads that want their kids to get involved in the summer interview, that the kids interviewing, talking about being able to talk about their dads and things like that. So we got plenty of spots for that. Honestly, I think I've
Hmm.
only got total of maybe 4 or 5 kids, six. I'll say 6 kids actually, because I put my kids in there. But still, love to get a few more, honestly. So
I
hopefully,
should get my kids to do that. That'd be hilarious.
yeah, there you go. I would love to
Especially
hear that.
because Fabian heading out to because he
Oh,
is chomping at the bit He's like, Friday, I'm done. I've turned in my stuff. And I'm like, no, you're not. You technically have senior. You still have 3 days of school after that. And they are expecting you to be there all 3 days. He's like, yeah, they're expecting it.
You
And I'm like,
graduate and then
okay.
you still have to be there for 3 days after,
Yeah,
you
there's like
said?
2 or 3 days after that they're still,
What?
yeah, expecting. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't be there.
Right. And I'm like, I don't
No
know how many
way.
seniors are going to be there, but yeah.
Whatever, dude. That's
And
seniors.
it's,
Those are senior skip days.
it is. And it's so funny because this was my first experience with a senior skip day. Now I heard about them in high school, but I never went my senior year. Right. So
Uh-huh.
I've never experienced this. And he called me the other day, he goes, hey dad, Mondays or whatever day it was, Tuesdays is a senior skip day. I'm like, okay, cool. Does that mean that the school is okay with you not being in school? I mean, is it like an official school, like a day off for seniors? He said, no, no. Dad, I am getting straight A's, and he does. He's a very good academic student. He said, and honestly, the truant officers aren't going to bother you if you're getting good grades. I mean, they're really looking for kids who are not only just not being in school, but also just aren't in any way participating in school. He said, I'd be fine. And I'm like, who told you that? He said, well, my friends. I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to take advice on your academic career from your fellow seniors. Okay. No offense, but I'm going to have to look into this and make sure. And, Marnie had, at least, of course, had experienced it and done it. And she said, I'm like, so basically, I just have to call in and lie and tell the school that you're sick or it's an unexcused absence. Right. And,
Right.
and that's the truth of it. That is it. I mean, it is. That's a small thing, and it's no
Man, I
big deal. And I'm
remember.
I'm not trying to be self righteous about it. I'm like, I would never lie because I guarantee I have lied, cheated, and everything in my life. I'm not a good person, but I'm like, I just need to clarify this is where we're at. And Marnie was like, everybody will be out.
Yeah.
Every senior will be
Senior,
out.
it's senior skip
Ex
day. Yep.
just no one will be there. There will
Except
be
for
no
that
one else in his
one.
classes. Right. And she said, except for that one person that's
Uh-huh.
just their parents are idiots, basically. Is I think is what she said. And I'm like, all right, cool, cool. I got that. I said, I agree with the truancy officer thought.
Yeah.
You're a straight A student and you've got like 2 weeks left of high school. There's nothing you need to do right now. There's no test left. There are no,
No, there's
there's
nothing.
nothing. It's just coasting until graduation.
I mean, we
So
used to go find like a water park and go
nice.
like
Yeah.
we just it was like everybody went to this one place. We had like a water park. Everybody hung out.
Cool.
Or we did something like that. And then in the evening it was like go out in the backwoods of somebody's farm and had like a big bonfire. And honestly, like most of the parents showed up with the food and everything. Like they were
Hmm.
actually cooking. Like it was all the senior parents out there
Yeah.
cooking. Um, and it was always a blast. I mean,
Hmm. And
and
now that I understand that, I have to
yeah.
say, I agree. It sounds amazing.
I
It
mean,
sounds
we
fantastic.
one time even had like the sheriff of our town, their daughter, his twin daughters were graduating, and he was out there on senior skip day
Yeah.
with us. So yeah, man. I mean, I get it. Yeah, if you've never experienced it, totally
Well, yeah,
questioning
that's
what's
it.
going
I mean,
on.
and
I get that
I'm sorry. When
completely.
I was in high school, I was full-time cult member. I thought I knew everything in the world about the Bible. I did not do anything wrong. There's no way I would skip school. Only horrible, horrible demonic children would skip school, right? I mean, that's not true. Obviously, that's not true.
And now you
But that
carry
again,
D20 dice in your
it's
pocket.
it's
Nah.
what you were taught versus what you learn, right?
Right, right.
I
Yep.
was taught incorrectly, so I'm happy to be enlightened at this point. And yeah, and again, I looked at him and I said, if you told me, because I let him make the decision all his senior year, if you want to stay home, you stay home. You're going to pay for it. There will be repercussions if something happens. But if you feel sick and you don't think you can go to school, I will just call the school and tell them you won't be there. I'm not going to question you. You just tell me.
Yeah.
It's your decision. And it really, really worked out well. That is, of course, a lot of landmines. There's no way I would say everybody should do that. But I trusted him and he took on the responsibility and he
Yeah.
only did it, I think, 2 days of the entire year. But beyond that, he like called me the other day and said, hey, Dad, we left for fourth period, which is lunch, and we didn't get back in time. So I'm going to miss fifth. I just want you to know. And he didn't say, would you call and excuse it? He didn't say anything other than that. He let me make the decision on that. And I did not call that in. That isn't an excused absence because you need to keep track of your time, buddy. You can't just go out there and do that.
Right.
But the fact that he's reached that point, I mean, he's a little scared, but he's ready to go to college.
Yeah.
And I feel good that yeah, you're going to go off and do amazing things, and you're going to screw up, and you're going to make huge mistakes, and I'm going to have to pay $1,000 for somebody's apartment's carpet or something. And there's some moronic thing you're going to do in the next 2 or 3 years that I'm going to have to pay a lot of money for, but it's okay. And I'm ready.
It's all good, man. That's exciting though. Yeah, I hope that senior day is a lot
Oh,
of
I
fun for
can't
him.
wait for you, man. I can't wait. I cannot wait
Oh,
to when Hezekiah is hitting that, he's got 2 weeks left and he's going to college. He's out for the summer and he's going to college. It's going to be an amazing time for you and your
yeah.
family. It's
Well,
going to
I
be,
mean, I remember what it was like. So, like I said, my dad and I we had a really good relationship, honestly, but he was he was the guy that for like my senior year, we were talking about going to Cedar Point and
Mhm.
which is another amusement park up near us, and um he was like, I'll take the day off of work and I'll drive you guys there. And he's like, I'll be the adult that can help you guys get your hotel room and stuff like that. So
Nice.
he did all that and ran around the park with us. And then college, like he would come down and hang out. Like for my 21st birthday, like he came
Yeah.
down and went to all the bars with all my buddies and you know did
Nice.
all
That's
did all
nice.
that. He was drinking us all under the table. It was just we had a great time, and that's I my hope is that I have a close relationship with my kids, like my dad did. Like it,
Hmm.
I enjoyed when he would be like, "Hey, like anything
Yes.
going on this weekend? Like I can come down." And
Right.
I always was like, yeah, like what do you want to do? What can I show you? Well, like,
Hmm.
can I, introduce you to my friends, like that kind of thing, or
Yeah.
that, and just keep embedding him into my life. And still to this day,
And
we do that kind of stuff.
and back to the point earlier where there was a moment where he yelled at you and it affected you for the rest of your life, and it was a moment,
Right.
but it's not who he is.
No.
It was just a moment of frustration and he lost his temper. And I want to stress that now because that's you, that's me, that's every parent we know.
Mm-hmm.
I hear all
Yeah,
the time about anger and rage and issues like that. Yes, yes, yes. We do that. It doesn't have to be our legacy. You know,
exactly.
we
Yep.
can look at it and go, yeah, I made it. And even if you don't say I made a mistake, but you can still build that relationship of love and trust where your kids are like, yeah, I like spending time with you. I like hanging out with you. And it's like, really? All right, let's go. I thought teenagers were supposed to just absolutely hate me and not even admit that I existed. Wherein, no, that's not the relationship that you have to have. And I love
Right.
that part of the story too.
Well, it's like it's like in Batman where you've got is it I'm gonna mess up names here. What's the butler's name?
Alfred.
Alfred. I was gonna say Arnold, and I was like, that's not right. Sorry.
Oh, I wish
Had
you'd
a,
said Arnold.
oh my God, no. That's what I was like, trying not to do. But Alfred is talking to a very young Bruce Wayne in the first the one with Christian Bale, and says basically like, when we fall down, it's how we basically get up and dust ourselves off
Hmm.
and keep moving forward that makes us into who we are.
Right.
And there are many times where when I fall or stumble on things, like that is like the quote that runs through my head all the time. It's like, all right, like
Hmm.
the next couple of steps are going to be what defines
Right.
how things go.
Yes.
And I think that's so important to have something like that, kind of at the forefront of your mind, like to remind yourself of, all right, yeah, I just tripped.
Hmm.
I just fell. What am I going to do now? And just having that motivation and being like, this is my opportunity to actually strengthen myself and move forward.
Right. Yep.
So yeah. Well, this has been a fun conversation. Uh,
Yeah. All over the place as usual. It's
all,
fantastic.
hey, it's all good. It's all good. Um, Next week we don't have a guest next week either, so
I
we'll
don't think so.
we'll have to come up with something there. Oh, I will say this just before we go. Next week will be the last week that we're accepting the gosh, I can't even talk. Next week will be the last week that we accept applications for scholarship for Home Dad Con. So if you're on the fence or you know somebody who is, considering whether they can go or want to go, now is the time to stop hesitating and fill
Yep.
out the application form and
Get that
it
done,
in.
guys. Yep.
Because we want to get as many of you to Home Dad Con as we possibly can. And that final date for when all that finishes up is June 1st. So it's coming quick. And I hope that if you've been debating on whether or not to do it, just do it. And then we'll talk through the process. Like me and the rest of the scholarship committee will talk through with you about what you need, how we can assist, and all those kind of things. But you've got to submit your application. So do that.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, hey, we'll talk to you all next week. Hope you have a great week yourself. And see you later.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support. Connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today.